Namaste everybody. Hi, it's Kelly, and I think it's day 13. It might be day 14. I missed a couple of days because I got a little bit busy around here, but that's life, so what do you know? I thought that today we could do a little bit of work on sort of getting comfortable in seated forward folds. Oftentimes I'll see things in my classes that make me think that folks really haven't yet sort of got the connection that it doesn't have to be torture on your neck and upper back doing seated forward folds. So this requires a little self-assessment. And we'll just start sort of by extending the legs out straight. Now, if you're like me, this could feel challenging, just sitting in Dandasana or the staff pose. If you are working really hard right here to avoid sort of slumping back like this, if this feels like the most natural and like even coming to a place like this, sorry, showing you my mama belly there. Even if this is difficult, I think you could benefit greatly from elevating your seat either on a pillow or a folded blanket, or maybe even both. And it's important to get something that supports you and where you can sort of scooch all the way forward so that if you were to just scooch even just a teeny tiny bit more, you'd fall off. You're sort of tilting your pelvis forward as you work in this way. You might come here and say, you know what, I need a little bit more. So then you could add a blanket. Now, I would caution against using a block because then you're just sort of, you don't get that sort of give where you could really tilt the pelvis forward here and get a nice sort of support of the low back while you're moving toward your forward fold. And one thing that I feel like is really important is to really just let go of this whole notion of reaching for your feet. I know that, like, do you guys remember the presidential fitness test that we, at least in the United States, when I was a kid, we did this sort of like sit and reach. And it didn't matter what your back looked like. You were sort of just reaching as far as you could, and you could wind up with something like, one of my resolutions is to stop demonstrating what I don't want things to look like because I end up hurting myself. So let's say you can get to your toes, but in doing so you're kind of hunching and you look something like this. You look like, whoa. Really unsupported, really sort of achy through the upper back, and really stretching out my back and maybe not working my hamstrings so much. We want to avoid that. Even when we work in yin, we're avoiding that. We're not creating strain there. So if you're in just a regular hatha class, not a yin class, I would suggest extending the legs long and then also using a strap. Which I, of course, don't have handy right now. Una, could you go get me my strap, please? Just kidding, I know you don't know where it is. Okay, I don't have it, but I do have something. Hi! Hi! Oh, hey, can you come back here? Can you come back here?
Hi!
Okay, Una, come help me.
Hi! Hi!
So I'm just going to use a pillowcase.
Hi!
You can use a scarf or anything where you can just sort of very easily loop that around the feet. And then notice how my spine is nice and long. I feel this already in my hamstrings. And you might too. And if that's you, that's good. That's where you sort of really want to start feeling the sensation in the body. Really taking it out of your upper back and bringing it, and even your mid back, and bringing it into your legs first. And just work with this. Just sort of see what this feels like. sort of how this is different maybe than you've approached this posture, Paschimottanasana, in the past. And so then if you feel like you're ready to maybe work on coming into a forward fold, you'll inhale and lengthen the spine. And then the way I like to approach this is, as you exhale, press your inner thighs into the floor. My heels just lifted up. So my legs are active here. And I'll inhale again and lengthen the spine. And as I exhale, I feel like my heart is being drawn across the room. And I even let my head lag behind so that I don't get into this sort of habit of like, oh, let me get my head down there. Oh my God, that hurts my neck. I should not do things like that. I should not. I should have learned my lesson. So good. And again, lengthen on the inhale. Exhale, feel the heart being drawn across the room. And so I'm feeling this primarily, Una. Can you bring that to Mama? Can you bring it to Mama? So like I was saying, I'm feeling this, Una, I'm trying to work here. I'm feeling this primarily in my hamstrings. Right there at the start. Then once you reach your edge, once you sort of feel like, these are my hamstrings. Hello, old friends. When you get to that point, don't worry about what the angle looks like. Don't worry if you're not even hinging. Then, if at all, you can let the head sort of, the chin tuck. Una, please. Una, please. No, this is Mama's. I'm working right now. You can go back to your work. Can you go back to your work?
Yeah.
Yeah, go back to your work. Good work. Sorry, everybody. When you reach that point where you're at your edge, you feel this in your hamstrings. You feel this even in that place where the hamstrings attach to your sitting bones. Then maybe tuck the chin and find that length. Now, I continue when I work here to lengthen the spine on the in-breaths, and on the out-breaths, really feel my shoulders sort of soften away from my ears. And I inhale and lengthen the spine, and as I exhale, I re-establish that connection between the backs of my legs and the earth. So I'm getting some nice strengthening, I feel like, through my low back, and I'm getting some nice stretch through my hamstrings. The trouble is, like, I shouldn't say the trouble, but sort of our condition in life, in at least the United States and probably other Western countries, is that we spend so much time, like, sitting at a desk or whatever, going at the computer or over our machine, or like this behind the wheel of a car. And so we're really already stretched out up here. We're very stretched out and we're very tight up here. So even though in some senses it might feel easy to really round and hunch and grab for your toes, we want to sort of bring the hamstrings into the equation as well. Now, like I was saying, this is also something we practice in yin yoga. And my approach is slightly different in yin. I would grab more pillows, more, maybe even some blocks. And again, find your throne where your pelvis is tilting forward. And then really stack things up on your belly. And we're going to round into it, but we're going to do it in a way where your head is supported. Your head, is really feeling gravity, and that can create some strain on the neck. So I start the same way as I would normally, or in a regular yang style class. Lengthen the spine, press the thighs into the floor, and as I exhale, feel the heart being drawn forward. And then here, when I find my edge, when I feel my hamstrings, I sort of create a structure. Maybe with bolsters and maybe with pillows. Yeah, oh, that's for blowing up the yoga ball. Can you blow into there? And then using this, I sort of round into it. I begin to soften, and I like to rest my head in my hands, or my head on my hands. And you could, of course, do this with a bolster as well, but really feel yourself supported. What you want to avoid is just, so like I was saying, you really want to avoid just sort of like hanging unsupported when you're approaching in that way. You'll create a lot of strain on your neck and your jaw, and maybe even behind your ears and in your head, of course your upper back. And so this is a way that you can approach all forward folds, and I hope you will, sort of by elevating and really taking a good inventory of what you feel in your body, and sort of what cultural significance we've placed on sort of touching the toes, regardless of what that does to our body. I think that that's important to explore and to really be okay with whatever shape works for you, because you want to be able to be in these poses for a long time. I mean, and I don't mean that like in the small sense, like you don't, like not necessarily holding them for 5 minutes or whatever. I mean, you want to practice them until you are advanced in age, in your waning years, if you will. At least I do. And I feel like if I were to approach a lot of postures from that place of like, I feel pressure to do it a certain way, that doesn't sort of respect my body's, isn't she cute? The way my body is put together, that would lead to lots more injury. So I'm interested to know how, if at all, this helps any of you out there practicing, or if you have your own way of approaching forward folds that helps you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Namaste.